This is TWiT.
The X.org server is back in the news again, and as is typical with X.org these days, it's not for a good reason. A fresh batch of 5 security vulnerabilities has just been disclosed in X.org server 21.1.22. And another common these with the X.org vulnerabilities, some of these bugs are ancient. We're talking code paths that go back 25 years to X11 R6.6. And that's almost as old as Jonathan, alongside newer flaws introduced in later X.org releases. The list includes an integer overflow, out-of-bound reads, a use after free bug, and even a buffer overflow. So all the bad things. Most of these can be exposed in uninitialized memory, which is exactly the kind of thing you don't want sitting around in one of the oldest and most privileged parts of the Linux desktop stack. And that is, really the story here is that X.org is old. It's not classic, not battle test. I mean, it is, but it's just full of old, huge, bloated code base, decades of baggage, designed at a time when security and the internet was barely an afterthought. Nobody worried about those things back there. It was a simpler time. In fact, most new X.org releases now seem to arrive because another security problem has been found. So if there's a new X.org update, it's probably a new bug. 13 years ago, a researcher called X.org security a disaster and said it was worse than it looked. And here we are, more than a decade later, still finding new reasons to agree. Don't get me wrong, it's still better and safer, more secure than Windows, but we have a much better option today. This is another reminder that the future needs to be Wayland, not just the future, but the present for most of us. Okay, there's some weird little side cases, but it doesn't apply to most people, honestly. Not because Wayland is perfect, and not because X Wayland magically disappears overnight. You're still gonna have that shim, but because the old X model was designed for a different era, and we got to move away from it. Wayland moves Linux desktops towards a simpler, more modern architecture with way less legacy exposure and fewer opportunities for this kind of decades-old complexity to keep biting us. It's not perfect, but in so many ways, it is now better than X. So yes, if you are still using it, patch X.org, patch your X Wayland, but more importantly, try to find a way to keep moving forward and move on, because every new old X.org vulnerability is another argument that Linux shouldn't keep building tomorrow's desktop on yesterday's foundation.
Yesterday's foundation.
And all the experts that worked on X11 are the ones that started Wayland. So the people that knew or mostly understood X11, I hear it's just such a convoluted mess. Nobody truly understands all parts of it. That they said to make it right, we got to start over.
If you trusted the X11 devs, you should trust the Wayland devs. Myself, as a hobbyist programmer, I know what it's like to have old code that you wrote early on in your careers, and you built it up as like, you know what, I just need to start this over from scratch. I did that with the program that I sold once, I just added a 2 to mine. I didn't give it a whole new name. I just called it LC2 because the first one was LC. But anyway, I know how that goes. It's no knock on the old code. It was in a simpler time.
Well, it was designed when the computer architectures worked very differently than they do now.
Yeah, and we've just been shimming it over the years. And by we, I mean the developers. I haven't done anything, but
except for port owner.
If you enjoyed this clip, be sure to check out the Untitled Linux Show. You can find us in your favorite podcasting app or subscribe to our YouTube channel down in the links below. See you there.